Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I am David Rodriguez, and today we're going to be reviewing Kamigami Battles Rise of the Old Ones, as well as its expansions into the Dreamlands and The Stars Are Right. This was published in 2022 from Japanime Games and was designed by Rich Gain. Now, before I go any further than that, I have to give a little bit of a disclaimer. The art in this game is an anime style that is pretty sexualized. Now, I don't think it goes beyond like a high PG or a low PG-13 level, but it's there. Now, we're only going to show that artwork during the actual art and components segment of the review, and we are also going to discuss the implications of this particular type of artwork. But if you don't want to see that particular part, you can go right past it, or if you just know that's not for you, I'll catch you on another one. But I wanted to make sure you knew that that was something that was in this game. So, Kamigami Battles, this is actually, I think it's the third starter set. The previous ones all had gods from pantheons that people actually worshipped in the past. I think like a Greek god one, and I'm not sure what all else. But this is all the Cthulhu mythos from H.P. Lovecraft, so it's a little bit different. Now, it's a deck building game, and you play as one of the Great Old Ones, and you are trying to defeat the other Great Old Ones, or just gain enough power that you are pretty much unstoppable. So since this has to do with the Cthulhu mythos, we reached out to our cultist friend, Malefor Darkstar. How's it going, Malefor?
David. I've looked at all the cards in this game, and to be honest, I'm a little offended.
Yeah, I get it. We're going to address the sexy artwork in the art and components segment.
What? Oh no, that's not a problem. The depictions in this game are actually 100% accurate to how the old ones actually look. I assure you, nothing is more disturbing than anime proportions brought into the real world.
Weird. Huh. Okay, what's bothering you?
Isn't it obvious? The cultists in these cards are wearing the wrong colors. What are they, purple, blue? Everyone knows you can only summon a Great Old One wearing red.
Okay, I'm actually a little distracted thinking about anime proportions in real life, so let's just go to our gameplay overview. Okay, so Kamigami Battles Rise of the Old Ones is a 2 to 6 player game. You can play either free-for-all or in teams if you want. It is for ages 14 and up and plays in about 60 minutes, theoretically. Probably depends on the game on that one. On the surface, this looks like a really normal head-to-head competitive deck building game. You start out with your basic deck that is not very powerful, just basically gives you the ability to purchase new cards, and you're going to spend your time buying new cards, building up your ability, adding them to your deck, and as time goes on, you'll knock off the health of your opponent, or in this particular case, in this game, you can also raise your health to 25, which could get you the victory. Now, it does have some quirks that make it a little different. For one, there is that win condition where if you can raise your health high enough, you're basically unstoppable at that point, at least, in game terms. So that is kind of interesting. You don't have to just defeat everybody, you could just better yourself the entire time. It also has asymmetric player power, so you choose a god, and each god is going to have different abilities that'll let you do every turn as long as you can pay for those abilities. And as an optional rule, you can also add locations on to your god, and that'll also give you even more abilities. So really a lot of variation as far as starting abilities in this game. Some other differences from your typical deck builder is when you purchase a card from the marketplace, you'll put it on top of your deck instead of in your discard. So you know that that card is going to come out the next time you drop your hand. Also, if a spot on the marketplace is left empty, if you've taken the last card off of there, either in the heroes or the artifacts area, when you pull out a new card to replace it, if that particular card is already out there, you just stack it on top of that one and draw another one. So you'll always have 6 warrior cards out and 3 artifacts. You'll never have fewer choices than that. But some of those choices can kind of get stacked up if you keep pulling the same cards. Probably the biggest area where this game is different than other deck builders is it has a chaining system. Now this applies to most of the cards you can get, but not the cards you start with. There's basically 3 types of Disciple cards. You're going to start with 2 of those in your deck, and you can buy more as the game goes on. Those you can always play on your turn regardless. All the other cards, though, will have 3 sort of circular symbols at the top of the card. Each symbol has its own color as well. One of them will be bigger than the rest, and that is the symbol that is affiliated with the card that you're playing down. The other two symbols signify what the next card you play down has to have as its main symbol. So for instance, if I play down a card with the red symbol and its two little symbols are next to it are the blue and the yellow one, the next card I play down, if it's going to be a warrior or an artifact, has to have its main symbol be either the blue or the yellow one. Now, you can play those disciple cards that don't have symbols at any point. You can play in between other cards, but you still have to pick up the chain where you left off. It doesn't reset it for that turn. So as a result, you may have a hand of a lot of cards that are pretty cool, but you may not actually be able to play all of them if you cannot chain them together well. Now, before I mention the locations, those are again an optional rule. You don't have to add them in. But much like your god, they have their own health. If the location is defeated, you simply turn it over and you don't have access to those particular skills anymore. But your god, however, when it's defeated, that means that you've lost the game. In a free-for-all game, it works much the same way. You're just trying to either eliminate anyone else or get up to that 25 points. So you're basically going to go back and forth in the game trying to attack the other person. You'll play down your attack cards. They may have a card that has a react action on it. They could play those down to perhaps affect the way that they're being attacked. And this will go on and on until somebody has reached one of the victory conditions. And that's the basic gist of how Kamigami Battles Rise of the Old One plays. So let's go to our art and components. Okay, for art and components, we're going to kind of touch on the components first. But when we get to the art, we're going to talk a little bit about the kind of over-sexualization.
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, the elephant in the room with this particular one. This is going to be the only segment in which we're actually going to show a lot of the art from the game. So if, art that is, probably like a PG-13 level of sexiness is not something you want to see, by all means you use the timestamps to get to the next section. We're going to show a lot of it here as we talk, just because I want you to be able to, if you are interested in this game, I want you to be able to see it and make the decision on your own if this crosses any line for you, or if you look at it and you're like, what's the big deal? Like, everyone has a different part they draw that line, so I just want you to be able to make your decision. But if you don't want to see that, or it's not a good time to have that going on, by all means. Again, it's not that bad, but it is
Something to be aware of.
It's something to be aware of, yeah.
For the components of this game, it's pretty simple. There's a few tokens and cards. It is a deck builder game, so you are going to be shuffling cards. And I think these cards shuffle really well. Even when you have your big warrior deck pile, you do it's such a big deck, you do kind of separate it into two piles and then shuffle it and combine them together. But they do shuffle really well together. And I think they'll hold up well over time.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really impressed with how slick the cards are. They just feel nice going against each other. So, I mean, that's always cool when you have deck builder games where you're fanning them out and shoveling and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's great. Everything looks super, super glossy, which is nice. We got the neoprene playmat through the Kickstarter. It does not come with the game.
We did look it up though, and you can buy the neoprene mat separately. And so I would recommend it with this game because with the way the especially the warrior marketplace works, when you get a duplicate card, you're just putting it on top of building a stack of the same card rather than spreading it out. So it can be kind of easy to realize that you are without having the actual spot locations like on the mat itself. It can be easy to overlook and not realize that you still need a card out.
Yeah, and if you don't like the design that I got, there's other options too, and there's some from like the previous sets that are more in line with those themes if you prefer that. But yeah, I'm glad that we have it for this game. I think I mean, you could certainly play without it, but I just think it's a lot nicer to have it. Okay, so let's talk about that art.
Yeah.
That art stands out.
Yeah. So it is anime inspired artwork, and most animes do kind of over sexualize their women, and this is no exception. There's a few men that are sexualized, but not a whole lot. A lot of them are, wearing, traditional kind of fantasy-esque clothing or armor. A lot of the guys aren't like shirtless. There's a couple that are, but for the most part, the guys just kind of look like your standard warriors. The women, they're all tight clothes. A lot of them are skimpy clothes, a lot of cleavage. Not too many of them are like in a really sexy pose, at least.
Yeah.
But, you know, that I feel like it's kind of like, oh, okay, like, we're just barely getting to that bar. You know, like, they took it kind of, like, right up to the edge, I think. More of an issue that I have with the artwork over the over-sexualized of the women is the representation in this game. There's not a lot of people of color in this game, and the ones that they do have are kind of stereotypical characterizations of those races. Like there's a black woman who's a voodoo doctor type. Any character that is a like working class, police, librarian, priest, they're white. Once I noticed it, it started to pop out at me even more and bother me more.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you caught that aspect because I didn't actually really see that, and it's not because I was distracted by the other things about the art. Okay, let me just be clear. I want to kind of point out why I bought this game, and you might still feel free to judge me on this. That's fine. The Cthulhu mythos creatures are supposed to be these indescribably horrific monsters that you can't even fathom when you see them. Like they're so mind-boggling that they drive you mad. And they turn them into sexy anime people. I just think that's hilarious. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I think it's really funny. It's not an especially titillating game to me. Like, I get it. Okay, yeah, sexy art, but whatever. Like, it's not that exciting. But nonetheless, that is what it is. And, you know, everything you said is valid. Like, the poses could be much worse, obviously. But they could do a lot better here. Like, and look, obviously, I mean, I bought the game. I don't think it's wrong to make this art. I don't think it's wrong to like this art. All that's fine. I just question the wisdom of it in this day and age. You know, it's not 1995. We're not still doing like sexy art in every single fantasy pick. Like if there's a woman, like she has to be in a chainmail bikini. Like it's not where we're at now. Mm-hmm. Like that is kind of a relic. We shouldn't have been there then, but it's what it was, right? So much more common. At this point, most companies are trying to kind of get away from that, and with good reason. There's a lot of women gamers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of women anime fans, and not every woman is going to be bothered by this art. Of course, some will even like this art. You're still cutting down your audience in a way that you don't have to. The art quality in this game, I think, is out of this world. It's fantastic. It's really, really, really good. They could have had the same artists, and there's multiple ones, and I don't know all their names, and some of them they're not using like English letters anyway, so I'm not sure, but they could have had those people and say, hey, you know, make them anime people, but just make them look like total badasses, or whatever, or make them look creepy, or whatever they wanted to do. They could have done it and not have it be sexy, and it still would have honestly been just as eye-catching. I probably still would have bought it because I would have been like, oh, that's cool. They made like, you know, anime Cthulhu gal, but she's like totally like scary. Like, I would have been all over that. That would have been amazing. And I don't think there's too many people who are like, I will only buy art if it is sexy anime. That's the only thing I will ever purchase. I don't think there's that many of those out there. And the ones that are, I mean, are we catering to that group? I mean, look, it is what it is. It's fine. And by all means, I'm sure a lot of people will disagree about it being fine, and I get that too, 100%. Regardless of the right or wrongness of this, it just seems unwise to do it. They didn't have to go this path. The previous versions of this game, I saw them, and I'm always interested in Deck Builder, but the covers of those are much more odd. Like, you get what this art is going to be in the box, right? Like, I don't know who the characters are, but, you know, it's like gals with very, like, cleavagey, all kind of stuff. And, like, so, yeah, I looked at it, I was like, man, this game looks kind of cool, but I'm kind of embarrassed to go to the counter with this. There's probably been at least a time where I would have bought it, but I was like, I feel kind of embarrassed to buy this game. Is that really what you're going to do? Like, I mean, I'm not probably the only guy who would feel that way.
Yeah.
If I hadn't gotten this through Kickstarter, I might have got it because it's not so obvious from the cover, but I might not have. I just think it's an odd choice. Yeah, it makes me giggle. It makes me laugh. Sexy anime Cthulhu creatures. Look, it's funny. I'm sorry. Right or wrong, I'm sorry. It's funny. I can't help it. It's funny. It just is.
The artwork really isn't that over the top. Like, you know, for me, like, when I'm looking at the artwork, it kind of, like, I go to a lot of local comic book and gaming conventions. And it kind of reminds me of like the stereotypical anime booth that you see that has all the wall hangings up. Some of those wall hangings are a lot more graphic than what's in this game. So if you don't have an issue with that booth, you'll be fine with this game.
Yeah.
If you do have an issue with that booth, this might have some issues for you.
Yeah. And as always, when a game has this kind of art, what I always say is make sure that whoever you're bringing this out to, you're 100% sure is okay with this art and is not going to feel objectified or uncomfortable because of it. And that includes people who are not at your table. If you're at a place like a game store or a convention where people are walking by, I would never take this to a con and play it. Even though I might like to meet people and play this game, like, I don't want people to walk by and look at it and be like, ugh, these guys, they're like this, huh? And move on and feel kind of creeped out. Like, that is the last thing I want at any of these game places. I don't want anyone to go to any of these and feel unwelcome. If I'm with friends who I know, like, think, oh, like, we have some friends that I think would think that was kind of like a funny thing.
Yeah.
I would happily bring it out with them. I'm not taking this other places. I'm just not. It's just not going to happen. And I would recommend the same, just because you don't want to make people feel bad around you in any way. Just why? There's no reason to.
Yeah.
All right, theme. So, after first playing this, I thought, wow, this could be a game about anything. This could be a game about ancient Rome, or ant colonies, or weather patterns, or anything. Mechanically, I mean, obviously the art is what the art is, but mechanically, it felt like it could be anything. And I still mostly feel that way. There are some little nods to theme in here. Like, there is a thief character you can play that makes an opponent discard a card, or you can, like, look around in their discard pile to get an artifact that isn't, like, too expensive or something, I think. Something like that. It makes sense to me that it is kind of hard to get rid of your basic cultists, because you need those to, like, boost your power. Like, I get some of the things that are in here. I like that one of the win conditions isn't just defeat everybody, but that it's raise your health up to a certain point. That makes sense, because now you've gotten so much influence and you're so powerful that you're like the overpowering Cthulhu Mythos god creature thing. So there's those things, but you know, that being said, like, it's you're never gonna get confused and think that you might be playing Arkham Horror. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
Did anything grab you as far as the theme?
Not a whole lot. There are a few cards here and there, but the vast majority of the cards could be skinned with anything. So overall, I think the theme is not really here with this game. There's a few, like, some of the artifacts make sense. I think the artifacts are actually probably where the theme is through most of the game. But yeah, as far as like the actual play, you know, when I'm playing this, I don't necessarily feel like I'm playing a Cthulhu game, other than the exception of a few cards here and there.
Yeah. And part of the problem might be, and I say might because I have not played the other starter sets for this series, and the other ones have, I think they have like the Greek gods or something. They have actual like human pantheons. And so if you're playing, like, say, Zeus, and you see your god's powers, you might look at that, maybe, I don't know, and say, oh, this makes sense for Zeus because he is so-and-so, and that's what this guy does. Okay, cool. That makes sense. It is much harder to do that with these creatures. I don't know. I like Cthulhu stuff. I don't know what Nyarlathotep does compared to Cthulhu, compared to Hastur. What do they do? Like, they're unknowable, unfathomable, like, beasts. Like, how do you tailor something to make it feel like you're playing them? I don't know. And maybe they did look into it. Maybe they did pick these roles based on something along those lines, but how many people know that to pull that out thematically? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think it's there very much. It's enough for me. I'm a theme person. It's okay, but it's like, it is barely there, I think.
Yeah. So I find this game interesting in that it's a deck building game, and I feel like it brought in a lot of stuff that I haven't necessarily seen in a deck building game, or they at least tweaked the rules enough so that it feels a lot different than deck building games that we normally play. That being said, I don't know if I like those tweaks or changes that they did. One of the tweaks is the way you have to do the chains in the cards. So with a lot of deck builders, you have your hand and you get a bonus if you can make a chain, but you don't have to make a chain in order to play all the cards out from your hand. This game you do, and like, you know, there's some your basic cards don't fall into that chain, but any of the warriors that you purchase are going to have to fall into line with the chain that you're making. And so that can mean, especially later on in the game, that there's going to be cards in your hand you just can't use all the cards that you have. And so you have to decide, do I want to run this chain or do I want to run this chain and not use these cards? And you know, and you don't get to keep the cards in your hand that you didn't use for the next time. So, like, you might have a really good, powerful card, but because of the other cards you have in your hand, you just can't really play that card. Or if you did play that card, that'd be the only card that you played. And so that can get really frustrating.
Yeah, you know, when I was reading the rules, I saw that chain rule. I thought that looked, it sounds really fascinating. I mean, it is actually, I think, really fascinating. And I could see, you know, really trying to play to make those chains, but you have to be so on top of it, of knowing what you have and knowing, you know, what you probably already discarded, what's more likely to come up next when you buy a card. And I think this game could be really thinky if you want to play those probabilities. If you're like a card counting kind of person, this might really work out for you. And I think when you pull off one of those good chains, it feels amazing. Like, you're like, oh my god, I did it perfectly. Yeah, like it feels great, right? And I do like that. It is kind of a high. And then you have these other turns where maybe you can only, you know, play half your hand, or maybe you can really only play one thing, or you could play more things, but the one thing is really the best thing, so you're just not going to do the others because you can't chain them together. But the thing is that high that you get is like you're kind of pointing out, it's kind of par for the course in every other deck building game. So it does feel like you're struggling to pull off things that are pretty normal in other deck building games. That's not necessarily a negative. I think some people, you know, like having those obstacles thrown in front of them to try to like figure that out. I get that entirely, and sometimes I like that too. You know, it could be kind of frustrating sometimes, but for the most part, it didn't really bother me, and I did like those like highs when I pulled a chain together. But it is sort of like, I could just play all my cards in another deck building game with no issue.
Yeah.
Like, if I buy like these 3 powerful cards, I know if I get them all in my hand, I am playing 3 powerful cards. Whereas, you know, sometimes in this, it's like, oh, I've got these 3, but I can only actually use 1, so.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is kind of an interesting twist to this game that isn't typical in deck builder games, we have 1 or 2 that do follow this rule, but it's not, I don't think it's a typical thing in deck builders, is when you buy the card, it goes on top of your deck, so rather than your discard pile.
Yep.
The fact that you have to get rid of all your cards, if we're playing a game and he buys a really powerful attack card on my turn, like, it doesn't really matter what I do. Because I can't, unless I have a special card that lets me keep cards in my hand, I can't be like, oh, well, I know he's going to attack me in the next round, so I'm going to keep some of my defense cards in my hand so that I can weather some of that attack.
Yeah, you're just hoping you get the defense cards in your next hand too, and you'll be okay, but you might not. I mean, yeah, it's an unusual thing. I think you maybe could play this and, you know, like I said, really count cards and kind of know what you're getting into, but I don't know if most people are really going to play that way, to be honest with you. I think if you play this like a lot of times, you'll probably get to the point where you know the cards you want to buy together and whatnot. Probably a lot more, but I don't know.
One of the other things with I feel like most of my problems with this game has to do with the warrior deck. The other thing that's different about this game, and probably because the warrior decks are, I think, the main difference in play with this game. But like most of the time when you have your marketplace that you're buying from, you have your 5, 6, however many cards you can buy from the marketplace. And as you put a new card out, you just put the new card out in whatever empty space there's there. In this one, if you pull out a duplicate card, it goes on top of the card that's already out, and you keep drawing until you have 6 different cards in your marketplace, which is kind of nice because it does add a little bit more variety to what you can pick from. The problem that I have that I noticed with this game, though, is that you can end up having it so that 4 or 5 of the cards that are out are cards that, like they're low-level cards or they're really high-level cards and people are having trouble buying them because they cost so much.
Yeah.
And there's not really a way to refresh the marketplace like most deck builders have.
Yeah.
It can get to a point where the market is really kind of stagnant because you just have the same cards to pick from each time.
Yeah. And some of the powers on the cards are just sort of quirky, so they're not things that people are necessarily jumping to get. So, yeah, you get to the point where it's like, well, now we've got to get through like 3 of some of these cards to just get something new out there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bit of a problem. I mean, and I haven't read every single God card, so maybe some of the God powers do something, but that's not, you're going to have that every game, regardless, for sure. One thing that I think is kind of weird, in addition to the warrior deck, there's the artifacts that are out, and then you also have the disciples. The disciples, you don't have to chain together to play them. You can just kind of play them if you have them, which is cool. Your deck starts with 2 Disciple 1 card, or no, it's got 8 Disciple 1 cards and 2 Disciple 3 cards, and those cards could be different, but in the base set, you get 1 stack of Disciple 1 cards, a stack of Disciple 2 cards, a stack of Disciple 3 cards, and they're all pretty much the same. And you can buy those as you want as well, and there's reason to with a lot of them, which is great. But the Disciple 3 cards that you start with in the core box I think it's a really weird starter card.
Wow.
Like, you're just not going to use the powers on that very much. It's an oddball. And
It has defense, so that's good, but like, especially in the first couple of rounds, you're not going to really need to use your defense.
Yeah.
So it seems a little odd for starting.
Yeah, they seem like they're just like there to clog up your hand at first, and that seems like an odd thing to start with. I know some deck builders probably do that, but it's a little odd. If you're going to get this game, I highly recommend also getting at least the Into the Dreamlands small expansion, because that has a different Disciple 3 card that'll let you actually call other disciples from your deck, which is kind of cool. And that's more useful right away if you want to use it right away. You might not want to right off, but you could.
Yeah.
And I just think it was an odd choice for a starter deck card that they have in the main box, but it's fine. So you always pick your god at the beginning of the game, and then you can pick locations as well. Like, that locations thing is an optional rule. You don't have to do it. I think I would always play with the locations if possible. I don't think they add that much complexity, and it makes you feel more like an individual, separate thing, I think.
Yeah, I think the location cards add a lot to the game. When you're attacking, you can choose to attack the location or the god. There's a few times where I could see attacking the location, but I think overall you're going to be attacking the god and not the location.
Yeah.
The nice thing about knocking out the location is that they don't get the bonus abilities from that location anymore once it's knocked out. The other thing that I think is a little weird with this game is, I feel like most deck builder games, most of the cards in the marketplace are going to either give you attack or purchase power, and the majority of the cards in this marketplace with the warriors don't do either of those.
Yeah.
And so that's, it seems weird that like at least 50% of the cards that you're going to have out don't do either of those things.
Yeah.
So a lot of the cards are just kind of like support cards.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just, it's not bad. It's just a weird kind of quirky set of things that you have. And I think they don't do a lot of attack cards because they want you to have a chance of getting up to like winning via the 25 health, but it feels very strange.
Yeah.
I think to do it. I don't know. Something feels a little odd about it to me, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
So for final scores, I'm actually going to give this game 2 different scores. One score is going to be based off the gameplay, and one score is going to be when I add in the artwork. For the overall gameplay, I'm going to give this game a 6. I have fun while I'm playing the game, but it's not a game that I'm super excited to play. So and what I mean by that is that it's not a game that like I'm going to personally pick out and be like, I want to play this game. If we have someone that wants to play the game, I will play the game with them, and I will have fun while I'm playing the game. But it's not a game that I'm going to go out of my way to play. When I factor in the artwork, it's going to drop it down to at least a 5, maybe a 4, depending on your views of the artwork. The women are over-sexualized in this game, but like I said before, for me, I actually have more of an issue with the representation in this game. They could have very easily given some of the more normal professions to to a person of color instead of making them all be white.
Yeah, I am really glad you pointed that out because I just hadn't caught that before, so it's something to keep in mind. So if you'd asked me right after we last played this game, I was going to give this a 7, and my thinking on this was, if this game actually has a lot of depth, if you just want to devote the mind space to it and like figuring out and really trying to figure out what cards you have and really being super strategic, it could be an 8. Like, it could have a lot more depth than your average typical deck builder, perhaps. Or I could see giving it a 6 because that level of depth might not actually exist. That may not really be there. No one might really be able to do that except for like some very few Rain Man-esque people. And in that case, it's kind of like the Moon Knight meme of random BS go all the time. And look, I enjoy playing this game. I think it's an enjoyable game. But, now I don't feel like I can give it a 7 based on what I hope it has in it that I might never reach. And the thing is, if we only played a few games a year and this is just going to be one of them, maybe I could, because maybe I'll be like, we'll play this enough, I'll figure it out and see if it's got that in there. But as it is, we've got a lot of games that we play, especially deck builders, and it's tough because I would like to play this again. It's just that there's a lot that I would like to play more. I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm perfectly happy if I am somewhere you are and we happen to have this game around and you want to play it with me, I'd be thrilled. That'd be great. But I just feel like it's a struggle to get things done, and that it may be so random and not actually strategic that it's just kind of like I don't know, we'll just throw things at each other and see what happens kind of game. Which is fine if this game plays in a half hour, but the time can really vary a lot in this game, just depending on the cards that come out and what different people are trying to do. If I'm trying to just heal and get my health up and you're trying to knock me down and you don't get a lot of power and we could stay at the same level for a while. And
that kind of goes back to the, not a lot of the cards, like 2/3 of the cards in the deck in your warrior deck don't attack, or like the attack and purchasing isn't very high in this game with the cards that you can purchase. So you can theoretically have a game that goes a long time without being able to get a single hit in.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. So I'm going to sit at a 6 with this one. I do hope I play it again someday. I was originally hoping I'd really like this game and I'd want to get all the other starter sets and we could really mix weird stuff up, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But, if I discover later that this game has the depth that I would like it to have, I'm more than happy to revisit this and talk about that. But for the moment, I'm at a 6.
One thing that I would like to point out that we didn't do with this game is that this game can play up to 6 players. We only played it on 2 players, so we were 1-on-1. You can do it as teams, or it can be kind of like a battle royal. And my concerns with that is that I can see this being a game where someone gets knocked out of the game early on and then has another hour of other people playing the game. Yeah,
could be. Or it could just drag on a long time. Either way. I'm going to spring something on you.
Okay.
I have here a list.
Oh boy.
This is a list of at least most of the deck building games that we have played. Probably not all of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to list these. And I want you to tell me if you like Kamigami Battles more or less than the game I mentioned.
Okay.
I don't want you to think about it too hard.
All right.
Okay, so if you like it more...
Oh, I can remember these games. I'm not good at remembering the names and the games.
You can just say pass if you really don't know. If you like Kamigami more, I want you to say more. And if you like it less, I want you to say less. Okay. I have a feeling I know how this is going to go. Okay, ready?
All right.
Abandon all artichokes.
Am I saying more or less?
If Kamigami's better, you say more.
Okay.
If Kamigami's worse, you say less.
Less.
Eon's End.
Less.
Ascension Tactics. That's the one with the models on the board.
Yeah. Less.
Clank.
Less.
Cowboy Bebop Space Serenade.
Less.
DC Comics deck building game.
Less.
G.I. Joe deck building game.
More.
Hero Realms.
Less.
Marvel Legendary.
Less.
Big Book of Madness.
Less.
The Hunger.
Less.
Thunderstone Quest. That's been a while.
I remember that one.
Okay. Transformers deck building game.
Less.
Twisted Fables.
Less.
That's about what I thought. I thought you'd like G.I. Joe more. Or you'd like it more than G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember what you thought of Transformers, but I thought you liked it okay. So.
Yeah.
But I was like.
That one's kind of even for me, but like I if I had to pick one, I would do Transformers.
Okay. I just had to do that. I had a feeling that was how it was going to be, but I had to put you to the test. Okay. So anyway, that's where we stand. We have 2 6s / maybe a 5 / maybe a 4. So, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all around the table again in All Games New and Old.
Bye.
Kamigami Battles Rise the Old Ones as well. Alright, so Kamigami... Wowie, already messing this up. If you get a chance to play it and you like that, you get one of each of those, or one of... If you enjoyed that video, you might also like this one.
Or this one.
If you like any of our videos, what you should do is click this little button to subscribe so you'll know about the next time we put out a video.
We'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.